Alrighty, here we go with, once again, the quadratic formula, finding the discriminant, solving quadratic formula, writing a whole bunch of stuff down, and ignoring these graphs. Awesome! Here we go. First of all, we already put this 5 on the other side because it has to be equal to 0. 3 is going to be A, negative 10 is going to be B, and 5 is going to be C. Before I start, I do want to remind you, you should try these before watching. This is me walking through it. This is me helping you do this, not me doing it for you. This is in your note packets, so you should be working them out. If you just need to check answers, then the answer key is online and you can check them. So that also has the work on it. So if you like going at your own pace, then you can just look at the answer key with all of the work. You don't have to be watching this video. This video is just if you want to see me in real time doing them. Okay, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. Once again, 3 is A, B is negative 10, C is 5. Plug these into the quadratic formula, negative B plus or minus the square root, B squared minus 4AC, all over 2A. So you start out with negative B. And in this case, it looks like B is already negative. That's just going to change this to a positive 10. Plus or minus the square root. And once again, my hint is to square this in your head. Do not use a calculator. Don't do anything. It's just negative 10 is squared, which is negative 10 times negative 10, which is 100. Boom, boom. Minus 4 times A, which is 3, times C, which is 5. All over 2 times A again. My number 1 hint is to square that in your head. My number 2 hint is that if you're using a calculator, do this part all in one go. 100 minus 4 times 3 times 5. If you are not going to do it by hand, if you're going to use a calculator, then don't do the 10, don't do the 2, 3, don't do the square root. Just do 100 times 4 times 3 times 5. Whatever you get goes underneath the radical. But since, I'm a math nerd, I'm going to go ahead and do it by hand. We have a negative here and everything else is positive. That means we're going to end up with a negative. So we'll have 100 minus. And then 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. So it's going to be 60. If you don't like that, you can mix around the numbers, like 4 times 5 is 20, and 20 times 3 is 60. No matter what, you get 60, though. And then you just kind of bring the rest down. 100 minus 60 is 40. So you get the square root of 40. Like that. We're at this point. It's possible to simplify the square root of 40. You just have to check it. So I'll go ahead and check it. Square root of 40. I'll use some of this space over here. So 40 can split up into 4 and 10. That's 2 and 2, 2 and 5. So it looks like there is a pair of 2's left over 2 and 5. So you'll have a 2 on the outside. And then these 2 leftovers get multiplied. So leftover 2, leftover 5, multiplied to leftover 10. So we can go back over here, and this is 10 plus or minus 2 root 10 over 6. So 10 over 6, this is now 2 root 10. Check to see if you can simplify again. In this case, 10, 2, and 6, you can simplify those. 10, 2, and 6 are all divisible by 2. So you would divide them all by 2, and you would get 5. This would just turn into a 1, so it goes away, and this is a 3. And that right there is going to be your answers. X equals those things. Yay. In terms of solution types, because it did say find the discriminant and solve it. The discriminant was just this thing right here. I'll hide it for you. That was the discriminant, the 40. Whatever's underneath the radical. So if it asks for the discriminant, it is 40. Meaning that there was 2 real ones. Didn't ask how many there were, but you know, there will eventually. So positive 40 means there's two reals, and it was used there. Those are the two real answers. Next up, we have this one, where A is 1, B is 4, and C is 5, and it's already equal to 0. So we'll have negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared, so 4 squared is 16, minus 4 times A times C. And if I'm going too fast, just pause the video. That's why videos are awesome. You can pause them and rewind and rewatch if I'm going too fast. Okay, 2 times 1. So negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. If you're not using a calculator, or if you are using a calculator, once again, just type in 16 minus 4 times 1 times 5. And that'll be whatever is underneath the radical. So whatever you get there, you put there. By hand, 4, you got one negative here, so it is going to end up being a negative. And 4 times 5 is 20. And then stuff. 16 minus 20 is negative 4. So you get negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 over 2. And the discriminant is done. The discriminant's right there. It's negative 4. So if I'm just asking for the discriminant, you're going to say negative 4. But since I am not just asking for the discriminant, but also solutions, we have to keep going. And this is a case where it's two imaginary numbers. You are going to have to simplify the square root of negative 4. It's imaginary, meaning you make this positive and you put an I in front. That's how you do imaginaries. What's the square root of 4? That's right, it's 2. So you get negative 4 plus or minus 2i over 2. Because the square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 4 is 2. Then you keep that I. And because we love simplifying fractions, because it's the heart technique, get it? You can divide these by 2. So negative 4 over 2 is negative 2. And 2 over 2 is 1. So it's just going to be plus or minus 1i, or just I. There you go. Number 3. Let's go. Negative b would be positive 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 25, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. So you get 5 plus or minus the square root of something over 6. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 4 is 48, so minus 48, because only one negative. So this will be 5 plus or minus the square root. 25 minus 48 is 23, I believe, negative 23 over 6. Luckily, you can't simplify the square root of 23, so that makes things a little easier. The only thing you're going to have to do is make it positive by putting an I in front. So your final answer would be 5 plus or minus I square root of 23 over 6. The discriminant is right there. I'll just put it over here for you. So the discriminant was negative 23. Okay. Looks like there's 2 more problems. For this one, we are going to have to really rearrange this. 12 squared, that's the one on the left side. So we're going to have to move this over and kind of reorder everything. We do want the x squared first, so I'll put 12x squared. The 7x I'll move next to it. And then if you add 3 to both sides, this minus 5 would become a minus 2, and it'll be equal to 0. So I did a couple of things there, but I moved the 3 over to make this negative 2, and then I just rearranged it. The 12 goes first, the 7 next, and then the 2. And then you can use quadratic formula, which is negative b, so this is b, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So you're plugging these things in. So negative 7 plus or minus the square root of something. So 49 minus something. Let's see, 4 times 12 is 48. 48 times 2 is 96. 96, there we go. There are 2 negatives this time, though. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So this turns to a plus. 2 times 12 is 24. So negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 plus 96. That's going to be 50 plus 95, which is 145, I believe. I'll double check that because I don't like being wrong. 514. Hey, go me. Yeah, it's 145 over 24. The discriminant is 145. I'll put that up there. That means there's 2 real because it's positive. I don't know if 145 simplifies, so I'll just try it over here. I know for a fact that 5 goes into it. It'll go into it twice with a 9, which is prime. So yeah, it does not simplify. So that means this is our answer. X equals. Cool. Lastly, we'll add this 12 over to the other side to get 3w squared minus 12w plus 12 equals 0. This is A, this is B, this is C. So negative B, if you really want to do it the long way, it would be negative B plus or minus the square root of stuff. But as you know, that's going to turn into a plus, so boop, ba-doop. B squared, 12 squared is 144, minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times A. So you get 12 plus or minus the square root of 144 minus 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 12 is 144. But 144 minus 144 is just 0. Pardon me. So the discriminant's 0. Yay. That makes things a little bit easier because that means there's one real solution. So that makes the algebra go a lot faster. Because adding 0 and subtracting 0 does the same thing in that it doesn't do anything. 12 plus 0 is just 12, so you get 12 over 6, which is 2. The answer is 2. Awesome. Yeah. There you go. That's it. This is all of it by quadratic formula. Hope it helped. Have a good one.